Federal Reserve today forced to release information on a secretive lending program, something it has never before done. Never. This after the Fox Business Network and Bloomberg News requested data about financial institutions that got the emergency loans during the financial crisis back in '08. The Supreme Court rejected a bid to keep the information secret. So now some 25,000 documents, some of those documents hundreds of pages long each, are providing new insight about which banks got how much from whom and for what. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano is here. He anchors that Freedom Watch over on the Fox Business Network, which is in the evening times, in the prime time. So a lot of banks got $3.something trillion. I didn't even know we had that much money.
Well, we didn't have that much money, and the Federal Reserve didn't have that much money. In the old days, they would have printed it. In the modern era, they just told the banks to add zeros to their accounts with the Fed.
Oh, that's great.
So the money was created out of thin air. This is in 2008. But think about $3.3 trillion, Shep. That's more than the budget of the federal government. That's 1/4 of the gross national product, the combination of all economic activity in the United States of America, went out in a 3-month period, created out of thin air. What's the effect of that? We start to see it now, a few years later. Rising prices, food, beer, gasoline, and commodities.
Stay level.
The number to me was startling, that it was, and to people that watch this for a living, the $3.3 trillion in that short period of time.
It's not. It was nothing. You mean they literally added zeros to the back of their accounts.
Yes.
And now the banksters are having just had the most profitable quarter of the new millennium.
Well, listen to this. They borrowed some money from the Treasury and the Fed in order to pay back the Fed the money that they borrowed from it in 2008. That's ridiculous, but that's the way the system works. And they borrowed it at something called the discount window, which is the lender of last resort. Nobody wants to be seen standing in line, or literally stand in line,
but
at the discount window. So these large banks said, you know what, we didn't really need the money, but we accepted it because the government wanted us to take it. We were doing the patriotic thing to do. That's what the banks would have us believe.
The patriotic thing for the banks to do would be lend some of that money.
The patriotic thing for the Fed to have done would not have been to create money out of thin air, but that's the system that we have. What's interesting is this is the first time, as you said in your intro, the courts have forced the Fed to do this, and they were not happy.
Have we learned anything about who got what and why that's of interest in there?
We've learned that there's a very loose interpretation of the word financial institution, that Honda is a financial institution, that General Motors is a financial institution, that some other entities that are not banks as we understand them went to the Fed and got money.
I guess everything was going to implode, right?
That was the argument that was made to the Fed. That was the argument that the Fed
pretty
made
believable.
at the time. It did sound believable at the time. You know,
did the banksters just hijack the whole country? Is that what happened?
I think the banks succeeded. And remember, they not only got this, they got TARP from the Congress, which got its
that was
cash.
The Bush administration.
Correct. Which got its cash by borrowing money from the Chinese and the Indians. So there was a tremendous amount of funny money circulating through the economy because the banks persuaded the Bush administration, which persuaded the Congress and the Fed to believe that the world would collapse if money wasn't created out of thin air. Now we have too much money chasing too few goods, prices will go up.
And then that's happening already. I mean,
yes,
we're seeing it across the board.
Yes, it is. And who gets hurt by that the most? The people that can afford it the least.
The people, that's who's gotten hurt in all of this. The people who can afford it the least. The middle class is disappearing.
Yes.
And the banksters are getting richer and richer and richer and crazily rich.
The only good thing that came out of this is a new opinion by the court that basically says all government documents are presumed to be available to the public, and the government would have to prove, it doesn't want to cough them up, why they're not available to the public. The Fed wanted to make the opposite argument. The Fed claimed its documents were presumed secret, and the court said, for the first time in 98 years, no.